All right, all right. This fight here, Israil Madrimov against Vergil Ortiz Jr. Probably going to be the hardest one to call out of all of them. Okay, I think this is the most 50-50 fight of the big card this weekend. I changed my opinion 3 times while doing film study. It was so bad that I had to really go back and watch Madrimov's pro fights. Like, I had to really go back and find an opponent somewhere in there that would give me something that I expect from Vergil Ortiz Jr. Okay, I changed my pick 3 times. And the only reason why I'm hitting the record right now is because I'm sure on my pick. I finally made a final decision. I'm good and I'm comfortable with what my pick is going to be. I will tell you guys later in the video. But I'm going to do this breakdown, man. Very, very 50-50 fight. I mean, to me, a few of these fights are 50-50. But this is the most 50-50 as you're going to get on this card. Very difficult fight to call. Okay, a lot of unknowns still with Madrimov being that he hasn't had that many pro fights. He's only had 12 pro fights, and he's 30 years old. He's with 10 wins, 7 knockouts, with 1 draw and 1 loss. His most recent fight against Terence Crawford was his first loss, but he also gave Crawford one of his toughest fight, if not the toughest fight in his professional career. Okay. He's a little bit shorter than Virgil. I think he's about 5'8.5". At least that's where he's listed. And a couple of inches shorter in reach. Okay. But there's a lot of unknowns with this guy. And I'm going to get to that. Vergil Ortiz, 22 wins, 21 knockouts. He stopped everybody except his most recent opponent against Sergey Bohachuk. All right. Most recent fight. Very, very controversial fight, in my opinion, because I thought Bohachuk slightly edged the fight, in my opinion, especially with the knockdowns and all that. But it is what it is. This is what we're here for. It was a great fight. It was actually one of the best fights of last year. But Vergil Ortiz, 26 years old, again, he's a younger fighter, but in my opinion, as a pro, he's fought much, much better opposition consistently throughout his career, from moving from 140 to 147 and now 154. This is going to be his 4th fight at 54, but his 2nd tough fight. The first 2 were quick, like one round stoppages, I think, against journeyman. Okay. Tomas Delorme was a journeyman by the time that Vergil Ortiz Jr. fought him at 54. Not back in the day, but at the point that he fought him, yes, he was a journeyman. All right. So again, this fight here is the most difficult, and this is for the WBC interim champion at 154. All right. Sebastian Fundora is actually the full champ. I believe he is. I know he's unified. I know Crawford holds a title. Bakram Murtazaliev holds a title, and you got Fundora holding 2 of the titles at 54 right now. All right. Now, let's start out with Madrimov. Because the last fight he did with Crawford was the first time I did real deep film study on him before. Okay. I knew about him. I watched this fight with Kurbanov. But the reason why I thought this fight is so hard to choose is because I don't know how he's going to fight Vergil Ortiz. I think that's the biggest problem with all this. I don't know what approach he's going to take. He's so unorthodox that he fights differently in every single fight that I've seen him in. He doesn't exactly fight the same exact way. What we all saw in the Crawford fight, because most of us saw that fight. Very herky-jerky, very low volume, lots of feinting and just feinting and even more feinting, herky-jerky, upper body movement. His hands, he's parrying a lot. He's in a high guard and he's not in a high guard. He's doing all this stuff. He's touching his gloves. He's doing all of this stuff to throw off Crawford. He threw off Crawford's timing. And I knew it was real the moment that Crawford went from fighting righty to southpaw within the first 30 seconds. I think Crawford realized as soon as the bell rung that he felt uncomfortable fighting in his inferior stance, in my opinion. Because as a righty, when Crawford's fighting like that, on a lower level guys, at one point he used to do it all the time. You know, he used to be on this Goku shit. Like he would come in, he wants to test out his different forms. Like, I'm gonna go Super Saiyan 1 and 2, and then I'm gonna move it up based on your strength. That's what Crawford did, but he switched it up. He changed it up very quickly. And I knew right then there was a serious fight. Crawford fought a cautious fight. And I haven't seen Crawford fight a fight that cautiously since he fought Victor Postal back down at 140. So it's been a long time. And he was just throwing off Crawford's timing. And Crawford decided to fight a chess match fight with him throughout the whole fight. Didn't really take many risks in the fight. Okay, because why? Well, it was Crawford's first fight at 54. He was fighting a bigger guy. Wanted to probably test his power. He wouldn't take too many risks in that fight, you know. So he fought a very cautious fight there. So the Madrimov that I seen in that fight is not the same Madrimov I seen in the Kurbanev fight, or the who else did it? Michelle Sorrell fights, or the Eric Walker fight, or the Barrera fight. You know, I had to really go back and fight. And Eric Walker, to me, I think that's a fight that you guys should watch, especially if you guys are like putting money down on this. I think it's a fight you need to watch simply because Eric Walker had quick hands, a good jab, and a good straight right hand, right cross. Stuff that I see from Vergil Ortiz. Don't fight exactly like him, but it's just, it was a fighter that Madrimov fought that he struggled a little bit against. You know what I mean? And I think his style is similar to, you know, I think Walker had some tools. I wouldn't really base it on the Bud fight because the Bud fight was such a chess match. And I know with Virgil, I'm not saying he can't fight that fight, but Virgil's such an aggressive fighter. So it was really hard for me to decide based on the opponents that Madrimov had, and I just didn't have time to go back. Sometimes I have to go in my bag and go into like the amateur fights to find holes and stuff. I don't have the time to do it because I still got more breakdowns to do. But with that being said, Madrimov is very unorthodox. He's a switcher as well. He can fight comfortably as a southpaw. You know, he's listed as, I think he's listed as an orthodox fighter, but he can fight as a southpaw with ease and look just as comfortable doing it. You know what I mean? So I don't know what he's going to do because he fights every fight differently. Sometimes he's more aggressive, throwing more combinations, throwing wilder shots. And then sometimes he's, like he did against Crawford, he's more of a technician. You know, even against the Kurbanov fight, he was technical in that fight, but he was more aggressive in that fight, you know, and he used a lot more lateral movement in that fight. He kept resetting himself and, you know, moving around Kurbanov as the fight continued. You know what I mean? He would throw, he would pot shot at times, and then at different points he would be like more aggressively like ambushing Kurbanov. So it's difficult because all I know is that this guy can adjust to whatever's working based on the styles, and being that he has some experience in fighting Vergil Ortiz Jr. because they have sparred before, I'm sure he knows exactly what he's going to come in with in this fight. And I know he probably knows how to switch just in case things ain't working for him. Now, Vergil Ortiz, I think from the beginning, since I started watching him, he's been one of the funnest fighters to watch from down at 140. Okay? Don't play around. You know, high volume, technical pressure fighter. Okay? Comes in with a high guard. Phenomenal jab, right? Phenomenal jab. Lots of jabs. Right hands, hooks. He attacks the body. You know, he can fight on the outside. He can fight on the inside. He could go to war. He can do whatever he feels like doing. He likes to fight, though. He likes to fight, you know, and I think at a slower pace, at the least, he's going to be throwing a ton of jabs to the body up top anyway. And defensively, not the greatest, especially when he gets caught with a good shot. I think the more aggressive that his opponent is, the more open he leaves himself, because once it turns into a war, once a fighter invites him into that war, or once a fighter catches him with a good shot, That's when he starts to leave himself a little open to get countered. All right. He's been buzzed. I seen Kyle Velasquez buzzed him with a good shot. Didn't count as a knockdown, but I think he did like lose his balance or whatever. Or I think he swung hard and missed. Sergey Bohachuk, there was a couple knockdowns in that fight. So he's capable of catching a good shot and getting buzzed. So I think Madrimov can definitely hurt him if he catches him with a good shot. But Ortiz haven't been badly hurt. He's been buzzed, he's been knocked down, but he's been able to recover within the round. And some of those rounds he's actually came back and finished off the round stronger. Okay. So Vergil Ortiz, to me, when you look at his resume, you look at the names here, you see Bochuk, you see Delorme, you got Kyle Velasquez, Hooker, Samuel Vargas, some of these fights, Orozco was one of his first early good fights. Brad Solomon was a good opponent as well at the time. Mauricio Herrera, old school journeyman at the time that they fought. But, he's fought some good fighters. And a lot of these fights, he dominated all these fights, and stopped all these guys. Virgil's a beast. Virgil's a beast. And he comes to fight. That's his style. But I think he can get in the chess match game with Madrimov. Now, I know what Virgil is going to do because we see him the same way in every fight. Not saying he's not capable of adjusting. I've seen him drop his hands and throw his jabs from the hip and try to become a little bit more slippery. I've seen him use those angles. I've seen him step in and try to turn his opponents and use those angles. He can do that. He can fight a flashy kind of fight, but on a fight on this level and this caliber, I see Madrimov being a little bit more comfortable in fighting that style, whatever way he chooses. He might fight with his hands up in active high guard, or he might fight with his hands low. And start winging wide punches from low, from places you don't see them coming from. So I don't know what approach Madrimov is going to take in this fight. And I think that's the biggest problem here. All right. So what do I think these fighters need to do? Well, with Madrimov, the best way to take approach in this fight, in my opinion, is to counter, right? But to also be active. I don't think he should be nearly as inactive as he was. And I'm talking about volume. I don't think he can take that approach with Virgil. Virgil's gonna let his hands go. Okay. So I think with Madrimov, what you want to do is take away the jab. You're not going to win a jab war with Vergil Ortiz. You're just not. Virgil is going to keep popping that jab. So you want to take away the jab. So you want to counter him and counter that jab early. You know what I mean? Don't let him think that he can just pop off with the jab all night long, because that's what he'll do. So I think focusing on countering the jab and trying to slow down the volume of that jab is key. I think that's a very important thing that he needs to get done. Also, he has to be smarter than Virgil. All right. You got to be smart. Like, Virgil's aggressive. So you want to lure him into these opportunities. You don't want to just go punch for punch and go to war with him, because even if you have success, it's just the risk. Why risk it? We know Virgil is usually in these kind of fights. And even though Madrimov can do that and fight that kind of fight, because I've seen him in previous fights be more aggressive, I don't think that's the approach you should take. I think Madrimov should be, picking the spots, resetting himself, using the ring a little bit, moving around, and look for opportunities to be in and out. I think with Virgil, you want to feint, you want to get him to lunge in and make his mistakes and counter from that. When it comes to Virgil, volume is the key. Volume is the key. I think when it comes to accuracy, Virgil, for a high volume puncher, he really tries not to waste too many punches. But this guy here, Israil, is a little bit different. And if he is going to be fighting out of a high guard, I expect Madrimov to be parrying a lot of those punches and looking to counter as well. So I think with Virgil, definitely got to be high volume, but he has to be concerned about the counters that may come back. Also, counter Madrimov. Madrimov is a guy that would overextend and throw some wild punches from way outside of range, and then he'll leave himself. He'll be leaning too forward, or he'll be coming in with his head down. You got to look for those opportunities to catch him on his way in. So when I was watching the Eric Walker fight, Eric Walker timed the right cross as Madrimov was coming in. So sometimes you're going to have to lead with the backhand because Madrimov is going to be, charging in that time. You want to catch him, take those quick step back, boom, catch him on his way in. So I think with Vergil Ortiz, just going to war and trying to outwork him, it might not necessarily help if he's countering you. You know what I mean? So I think Ortiz as well have to look for opportunities to capitalize on Madrimov's mistakes as he lunges in and overextends at times. You know what I mean? Who do I think is going to win? I'm going to go with Vergil Ortiz on this one. This is a fight that once it was announced, I always thought Madrimov was going to win. I started doing some film study, and I was still leaning towards Madrimov. But I kept watching and going back on all the fights. And I hate when I spend this much time on a fight, but I had to. I just overall, when I look at the Crawford fight, and I think a lot of people are picking Madrimov because of his performance against Bud. When I watch it and I rewatch it again, it's like I thought Crawford could have been a little bit more aggressive. There's a part of me that believes, and it's cool if you guys disagree, you kill me in the comments. There's a part of me that think that Bud might have shown Madrimov too much respect because there was long gaps where there was no punches thrown. And I know Madrimov was just waiting on the counter. And I get that. But Crawford has been in there with fighters that fought like that. You know what I mean? And I get it. It was his first fight at 54, so I understand. But outside of that Crawford fight, I think Ortiz is better. When I look at every single fight, even the Kurbanov win, I believe Ortiz would have stopped Kurbanov too. I've never been that impressed with Kurbanov. I saw his fights, and I've never been that impressed with him. I think Ortiz would have stopped him as well. And I think Ortiz has just been more impressive over his career. I think his volume is going to get him the win. I don't see Ortiz stopping Madrimov, but I do see Ortiz winning on points. I think his volume overall, even with the Bohachuk fight, and I think Bohachuk won the fight, I was still impressed with both of those guys. How they were, willing to go to war. There was times where Ortiz seemed like he was running out of gas, but he finished so strong. And there were certain rounds that he just caught a second wind and came back. The amount of punches that he took in that fight, even going down, again, it's just this guy didn't really go to war. He can take it to the body, you know what I mean? He can take a good shot up top and get right back up. I like Ortiz. I like Ortiz on points. I think Ortiz and his volume is going to play a huge part. His jab, his right hand. I think he's going to get it done, and this is not to compare the fight with Bud. I know that's what people are going to do, win or lose for either one of these guys. But I just think that Ortiz overall, I got to go with him. And I know Madrimov, I don't know exactly what his game plan is going to be. Ortiz, I know what he's bringing. And for that reason, I'm going to go with the guy that I've seen it. Madrimov, I've only seen real greatness in one fight, against a fighter that chose not to be aggressive. Ortiz, I think he's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And guess what? It might leave him open to get caught with a heavy shot and get out of there. Trust me, if I think Madrimov is winning this fight, and if you're a better person, Madrimov by knockout would be a good play. Because we know Virgil. Virgil's biggest weakness is when he gets hit, he gets reckless. And it's worked out for him in different fights. But in this fight, it could be dangerous. if he has to get caught with a good shot, he needs to be responsible. You know, and I know it's easy to say that because you're in the middle of a fight. But I just think that Vergil Ortiz is going to find a way to pull it out. I think it's going to be a tough fight. I think it's going to be a good fight. I don't think it's possible to have a boring Vergil Ortiz fight. I think this fight might be the best fight on the card. As far as action, this might be the number one. And I'm going to go with him on points. And I'm probably going to put money down on that one. All right. And I might throw some in the pot for Madrimov by KO. I'm going to see what the odds are. But Vergil Ortiz by decision is my official pick. All right, guys. I will see you guys Saturday. And make sure you subscribe. Smash the thumbs up. See you soon.